So today has been surprisingly emotional. So I've been practicing on the FlowRider, which is basically like this surfing simulator, but it's a lot more like snowboarding. And the first time I tried it, I was absolute ass, really embarrassing. But I decided to keep showing up and practicing because I really want to get the skill. Like, I don't like letting things beat me. I have a bit of an ego in that regard. And one thing that I'm very skilled at is just blunt, brutal repetition until I reach mastery. That's one of my talents, my gifts. And so I was there at Great Wolf Lodge, which is in Southern California, and they have an indoor surf simulator. And I kept getting in line over and over. And of course, every time I go, I fall. And there was this kid in line with me too. And he was also standing and he was also falling. And so I started talking to him in the line, and he was like 12 years old. And he's telling me, yeah, you know, you just have to keep trying. And, you know, of course we're going to fall. We're still learning, but we get better every time. And so that's why we keep going. Now, you have to understand, on this surf simulator, majority of people go lying down as opposed to standing up, because lying down is more fun. It's not as challenging. The learning curve isn't as steep. And also, it's just not embarrassing, right? You don't have to fall in front of people, and you don't have to look like you don't know what you're doing. Me and Jacob literally stayed there for like 3 hours, getting back in line, falling, and then getting back in line, falling and getting back in line, and having fun the entire time, me and this kid. And, you know, I introduced myself to his mom, and I was just touched. I was so touched by this kid's mentality, because he was unwavering in the face of failure. It wasn't actually failure. He knew that it was a stepping stone, and it was leading to him achieving mastery. You don't get to mastery unless you're willing to look like the person who's a novice, unless you're willing to look like you don't know what you're doing, because that's the space where you figure out what you're doing. And so I had to tell his mom. I pulled her aside and I told her, hey, I'm touched by how your son is. Like, his mentality is insane. And I know that that doesn't happen unless it's intentional. Like, I know that you and your husband, you guys went out of your way to make sure you don't disempower this kid. And he's so bold and self-assured that if I have a son, I really want my kid to have Jacob's mentality. And I want my child to be able to approach things like Jacob does. And the reason why is because there are so many adults out there who are afraid of doing new things because they don't want to embarrass themselves and because they don't know what they're doing. It's like those people who do the boogie board lying down. Even though they want to learn how to do it standing up, they're not willing to pay the price in embarrassment and in failures to achieve that mastery. And so instead they settle for just lying down. And again, me and Jacob, we were like, hey, whatever, we're just going to keep falling, and we're going to keep falling, and eventually we'll learn this. And we made a lot of progress in 3 hours, let me tell you. And so when I was talking to his parents, I had to give them that acknowledgement, because it's like, this is a gift that Jacob doesn't understand you've given him, but it's going to pay off so much more than any stock, any investment, because you're giving him psychological and emotional freedom. He's free. He can move into any skill set, any space, and he's not bogged down by shame or by guilt or, you know, self-flagellation because he's not already good. Jacob doesn't have any of that on him. And you can't buy that. That's the thing. You can't buy that in a store. You could buy Louis, you could buy Gucci, you could buy a house. You know, you can't buy psychological wellness. You can't buy resilience. You can't buy mental strength. And they put that in their son, and that's love. I feel like that is love. And I had to give them their acknowledgement. But it just had me so emotional, because I'm just like, man, this kid, he doesn't even understand just how far ahead he is. Because especially these days with social media and things being so public and visual, right? Everybody cares about their image, and nobody wants to look like they don't know what they're doing. Nobody wants to, you know, look like the novice. And Jacob's fearless. He's like, yo, I'm going to get this. Let's do it. Let's go. And what was funny is, at the end of the day, on our last runs, he did his last run. He looked at me. He was like, Austin, this one's for you. And he fell immediately. And so I went after, and I was like, okay, this is my last run. Jacob, this is for you. Fell immediately. We both fell like as soon as we did our last runs, but we dedicated them to each other. And it wasn't about getting it right. It wasn't about looking good. It was about the process. It was about connection, and it was about freedom. It was about the freedom to fail and understand that it's making us better.